Hi, friends. Welcome back, and thank you for joining your girl Anna B for another episode Behind the Walls. Y'all saw the title, and obviously, Ohio has your girl in a chokehold. So, we are doing another episode of Women Sentenced to Life in Ohio. Now, we're not going to stay there too long, but we do have to deep dive into Tamika Eagleton. Did y'all listen to the jail calls? I know they were not the best jail calls, but it's my first jail calls that I ever got on my own, and I was proud. And whatever I get, I like to share with y'all. So we deep diving it backwards because I put out the calls first. But I also have her jail records, JPay messages. We will see what the conversations were like with her and her mom. And then she talking about she was catching chicks in their cells, a CO popping the lock or turning the camera off. What some dumb shit she said. But we about to see if she got any fight write-ups or anything like that. Okay. Now, I also wanted to say that it's going to be live. So don't miss it. Turn your notifications on. I'm shooting for. Sorry, I was being nosy. My window is like right here. I'm upstairs, so somebody's walking up the street, so my window's a little bit open. So I had to be nosy a little bit, honey. I'm the nosy neighbor. Anyhow, hi to all my day ones, all my friends. Welcome to all of our new friends that have recently subscribed. I'm not going to hold y'all too long. Let's get into it. Claudia Hoerig fled to her native Brazil hours after shooting her husband to death and leaving his body covered with a tarp inside their Newton Falls home back in March of 2007. She emptied out his banking account, drove to Pittsburgh Airport, and boarded a plane. Nearly an 11-year extradition battle began to get Claudia back to Ohio to face the murder charge she was indicted on by a Trumbull County grand jury that same year. Now, Brazil refuses to surrender their own people, even on a murder charge.
She left quickly and is outside the jurisdiction of Ohio and the United States.
Claudia was living her life. She had even remarried and opened an accounting business, all while Major Carl Harig's family, prosecutors, and Congress members were fighting to get Brazil to return the murderous wife.
We want justice for Carl, but this is an issue that affects every American. When Brazil can hide people...
Major Carl Hoerig was an Air Force Reserve pilot who dedicated his life to serving his country with the Valley's 910th Airlift Wing. On March 15, 2007, his parents contacted Newton Falls police to check their son's home after he had not shown up for a scheduled flight assignment. The Air Force veteran was found dead from multiple gunshot wounds at the bottom of these stairs. The doors to the home were locked, and there were no signs of a forced entry.
Family gave the officer permission to enter their residence and found a deceased individual.
Right away, suspicion fell on his wife, Claudia. Carl and Claudia met online in 2005. Claudia was living in New York at the time. They fell in love quickly and married in Las Vegas that June. Claudia then moved to Newton Falls, Ohio, to be with Carl. Their relationship became rocky over time, and by early 2007, Carl started talking about leaving Claudia. He realized that she was dragging him down, according to his brother Paul. His parents were also concerned because of recent marital problems, and his friends had noticed Claudia's erratic behavior. Detectives discovered Claudia had flown to Brazil 3 days before Major Carl's body was found. It was also determined that the bullet that killed Major Carl was connected with a gun Claudia purchased just days before his death. A month after the devastating discovery, Claudia was charged with aggravated murder and a warrant was issued for her arrest. Lawmakers found every opportunity possible to bring attention to the fact that Brazil was harboring a killer. In 2013, Republicans and Democrats issued a joint statement calling for Claudia to be sent back to Ohio. They claimed that when Claudia became an American citizen in 1999, she gave up her rights as a Brazilian citizen.
Now we want the Brazilians to know this is not a political matter. This is about what's right and wrong.
And 3 years later, the Brazilian Supreme Court agreed and said that Claudia should be sent back to the United States to stand trial. However, the court set a stipulation that she should not be sentenced to death or life in prison, which are not allowed in Brazil. But it was up to Brazil's president to extradite her, and there was no guarantee that would happen until it actually did. U.S. Marshals chartered a plane and delivered Claudia back to Trumbull County. She was arraigned on January 19th, 2018.
We've crossed a hurdle, and now we're going to let the court system run through the process.
Paul Hare was sitting in the second row of the gallery as his brother's accused killer, Claudia Hoerig, was escorted into a Trumbull County courtroom for the first time, handcuffed and wearing jail orange.
So I've thought about this moment, quite a bit over the last 11 years, and to me, it's something I've been waiting for. So,
in her interview with police, Claudia admitted to shooting her husband 3 times, but maintained that she did so after the two had a heated argument, and that he wasn't the intended target. She was. Claudia also made very wild allegations against Carl that there was never any evidence to be true. She did her best at trying to portray herself as a victim during the interview and during her 2019 murder trial. She also did a very pitiful job at playing the I don't understand game.
You had already talked about getting a job back in New York with your old accounting firm, correct?
Yes.
And that would be with, I believe, Mr. Andy Wilder?
Yes, it was one of my options.
And he was also another boyfriend you had, correct?
Never.
Never?
No.
Would you like to see
Yes.
there were some emails between you, correct?
Yeah.
There were?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some kind of leading on like you
Yeah,
said.
men and women, they can flirt, but I never had anything with him. And I have no reason to hide that.
So
he
indicated to you.
Is that a crime?
I asked the questions here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you flirt with Andy Wilder?
Over the emails, I may have done that. I don't remember yes or no. I cannot say yes or no. We did flirt.
Okay. And he was married?
Yes.
And you're
But
married?
just the words.
Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. All right. So you have the boyfriend Bruce on Match.com. You're flirting with Andy Wilder. You have the job in New York. You have your condo in New York. You're going to keep the baby, but you want this jury to believe that Plan B is suicide. Correct?
Yes.
All right. Before you shot Carl Hare, were you upset that right after you got married, he went away for training for a few months?
No.
Before you shot him, were you upset that his son moved in with you?
I don't know. I don't understand the question. I'm going to answer no to what's your point? I not understand the question.
We're getting to it.
You asking me
Can
if
you
I was...
answer the questions and not argue with me, please?
I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. Before you shot Carl Hare, were you upset that you had these miscarriages with him?
I don't think I'm understanding the question.
Okay. Before you shot him, were you upset that you had these miscarriages?
I'm not understanding your question.
Okay.
When before when? 5 minutes, 1 day? I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. Were you mad before you shot Carl Hare that you had miscarriages?
What do you mean by before?
Before you
minutes?
shot him.
A year, or have I ever been? I'm not understanding what you mean by before.
Any point in time before you shot him on March 12th, 2007, were you upset or mad at Carl Hare for the miscarriages?
I'm a very forgiving person, and I was upset at one time, but not the next minute. I don't bring problems from one day to the next.
Before you shot Carl Hare, were you upset that he threw away that one fetus that you had and threw it away?
I was upset at that day, yes, at the time.
Okay. Before you shot him, were you upset that he made you train and run in the woods while you were pregnant?
I was upset at that day, yes.
Okay. Carl's walking away from you. He's done talking.
He's done talking.
All right. And you shot Carl Hare a few days after you transferred $9,900 to Brazil, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hare with the same gun that you bought 2 days earlier at Slugmasters, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hare with the same gun that you paid $227.52 for a light laser sight 2 days before, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hare with the same gun that you had Brian Martin put that laser sight on when you bought it, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hare with the same gun that you practiced with for about an hour 2 days earlier, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hare 2 days after, now what we hear is the first time just a salesman trying to get you to buy a bigger gun. You had no intent on that one, though, right?
No.
Okay. You shot and killed Carl Hare by putting not one, not two, but 3 shots into his body, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you executed him by walking down those 10 steps.
I'm not going to sustain that objection.
All right. You shot him. And despite the fact that you said earlier you're not a doctor or a forensic pathologist, you claim the first shot killed him, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Once the jury was handed the case, they deliberated and the judge read the verdict on January 24th, 2019.
Please rise.
All right, remain standing for the jury. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's my understanding you've reached a verdict. Ms. Fowler, it appears you have the verdict forms. If you'll hand them to my bailiff so that I can review them. Verdict forms in order. I'll read them at this time. We, the jury, in this case, duly impaneled and sworn or affirmed, find the defendant, Claudia C. Hoerig, guilty of aggravated murder as she stands charged in the first count of the indictment, dated this date, signed by all 12 jurors. As to the specification, we, the jury, in this case, duly impaneled and sworn or affirmed, find the defendant, Claudia C. Hoerig, did, at the time of committing aggravated murder, have a firearm on or about her person under her control, brandished the firearm, indicated that she possessed it or used it to facilitate the offense, again, dated this date, and signed by all 12 jurors.
Claudia was sentenced on February 8th, 2019.
Your actions clearly demonstrated prior calculation and design. In addition, your relationship to the victim, to wit, your husband, must also be considered. You made a conscious decision to end the life of your husband without any consideration of his life or the lives of his children or his family. The court has considered these factors along with your lack of any genuine remorse or accountability. Unfortunately, nothing this court does can bring back Major Hare or lessen the physical and emotional loss to his family and friends. Closure is a word often used, but perhaps never truly attained in these instances. The family and friends of Major Hare will never forget him, perhaps their memories of the actions that took him away. Now, Ms. Hoerig, your sentence shall be as follows. As to the crime of aggravated murder, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Sections 29, 29, 02, and 03, the court sentences you to a term of life imprisonment with parole eligibility after a full 25 years. In regard to the firearm specification under 2941.145, the court sentences you to 3 years of mandatory incarceration to be served prior to and consecutive to the underlying offense, for a total sentence of life imprisonment with parole eligibility after 28 full years. You are further ordered to pay the cost of this action.
In 2024, a federal judge refused to toss her conviction and her sentence. She's housed at the Dayton Correctional Institution. Major Carl Hoerig survived flying C-130 cargo planes on nearly 200 dangerous combat missions to Iraq and Afghanistan, only to be killed by Claudia after 2 years of marriage. It's such a tragedy. He was a father, a friend to many, and a beloved brother and son. Thank you for your dedication and services to this country, and may you forever, Major Carl Hoerig, be remembered for what you did and not what was done to you. On August 24th, 2009, police were called to 59 West Harrison Street on a report of screams coming from a room. Per court records and news reports, this was a rooming house, which I believe is the same thing as a boarding house. Residents of the home said things were fine, but as a precaution, police searched the house anyway. And during their search, officers found 25-year-old John Stouffer lying dead on the floor of his upstairs bedroom. John suffered multiple stab wounds, resulting in his death. 4 days later, police arrested Beth Ann Doty, William Witham, William Snyder, and Jason Stone in connection to John's murder. The following month, a fifth suspect, Nicholas Wallace, was also arrested. Further investigation revealed that Beth was previously involved with John and believed she was pregnant with his child at the time. She had solicited her co-defendants, who were members of a club that called themselves Death Demons. She wanted them to handle John to stop him from having any access to the child because she didn't want her child's father to be a sex offender. On the day of John's murder, the president of the Death Demons ordered his members to go do him, per court records. They all met at a man named Marvin's house, which was John's neighbor. He was also the man that Beth was now seeing. They lied and said that they were there to get some of Beth's belongings, but really they were setting the stage for John's murder. After William Snyder arrived, he convinced John to open his bedroom door under the pretense of wanting to talk about his truck. After John opened his door, William stepped aside, allowing Jason Stone to rush through the door and attack John with a knife in which Beth had handed him. A total of 29 stab wounds were located on John's body, 20 to his torso, 7 to the head and neck area, and 2 to his extremities. Afterwards, they all fled back to the president's house. Jason's blood-soaked clothing was burned and other evidence was discarded as well. 20-year-old Nicholas Wallace, who was last to be indicted, was first to be sentenced in January of that same year. He pleaded no contest to aggravated murder, aggravated burglary, and tampering with evidence. He received an 18-year to life in prison sentence. He also addressed the court saying he had time to think about the events while in jail and expressed regret for not going to authorities at the first sign of trouble. He also told the judge, "Thank you very much for showing me some mercy. No amount of apologies can end the pain or hurt this has caused his family." Nicholas had actually provided the knife used to kill John, and he also was the one to burn Jason's blood-soaked clothing. The month following Beth's indictment on one count of aggravated murder, and aggravated burglary, she filed a motion regarding her competency to stand trial. She was evaluated and determined to be competent. On January 4th, 2010, the court accepted the evaluations and deemed her fit to assist her attorneys. However, on February 3rd, 2010, 29-year-old Beth, who was also 8 months pregnant, admitted that she asked her accomplices to take John out of the picture. She pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and aggravated burglary. She was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison the same day. 46-year-old William Witham's trial had been held up by 2 psychological evaluations to determine whether he was able to assist in his defense. The first assessment declared him mentally retarded but fit to stand trial. The judge agreed that William was able to understand his actions were wrong and participate in court proceedings. But his attorney asked for an additional evaluation because the report indicated that William had an IQ of 65, couldn't read or write adequately, and has records with the Department of Developmental Disabilities dating back to age 16, per his attorney. 6 months later, and a week before his trial was set to begin, William also took a plea. The aggravated murder charge he was facing was dropped. The murder charge was amended to involuntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to 10 years on the manslaughter and a burglary charge. William Snyder was also sentenced to life in prison. He was given parole eligibility after 19 years. He picked up another charge while serving his time. He was charged with possession of a deadly weapon under detention. He was sentenced to an additional 2 years in prison. The youngest and the deadliest of the death demons, Jason Stone, was sentenced to 25 years to life imprisonment for aggravated murder. He admitted to taking John's life. He entered prison in February of 2010. He left prison on October 14, 2010, in a body bag. He was found dead in his one-man cell around 7:30 in the morning at the Allen Correctional Institution. According to an Ohio DRC spokeswoman, Jason tied a bed sheet around his neck, the other end to a window. He wouldn't have been up for parole until 2034. Beth is housed at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. Her first parole hearing will be held in July of 2029. John was taken just 2 days before he was to celebrate his 26th birthday. Per his online obituary, he was born in Athens, Ohio, and had no children, but leaves behind family who I'm sure still think of him daily. May he continue to rest in peace. On November 10, 1980, 17-year-old Teresa Bickerstaff was indicted for the aggravated murders by prior calculation and design of her mother and 2 younger brothers. She was also charged with the grand theft of her father's car and guns, which occurred earlier that year. The following year, she was hit with additional indictments for 3 counts of aggravated murder. 38-year-old Donna Kay, 14-year-old Fred Jr., and 13-year-old Kenneth Bickerstaff were all shot. The boys were also stabbed. Their family home was then set on fire. A coroner's report said they all died from inhaling the fire's fumes. At the time of the attack on his family, Teresa's father, Fred Bickerstaff Sr., was at work. And at the time of her arrest by the U.S. Customs authorities in Detroit, Teresa was with her 21-year-old boyfriend, Eric Joel Davis. They had been on the run for 36 days. A juvenile court judge ruled that Teresa would be tried as an adult. The key to the case appeared to be a tape-recorded statement she made to police shortly after her October 1980 arrest. In the taped statement, Teresa admitted to killing her mother and brothers while attempting to run away with Eric in the family's car. The recording was played for the jury at her trial that started on January 20th, 1982, in which she denied firing any shots. She said she confessed to killing her family to protect Eric, who she said rescued her from a life of prostitution and drugs. Eric told a different story in a tape-recorded statement that he provided to police and during his testimony at his separate trial. Eric recounted being dropped off by a friend near the Bickerstaff home in the early hours of August 29, 1980. Teresa let him inside, and once inside, he loaded a .357 Magnum revolver, a gun Teresa had again stolen from her father. He testified it was Teresa who shot her mother standing in her bedroom doorway. He then grabbed her packed bag of clothing and went downstairs. Teresa yells at him that her brothers are still alive. Eric then hears another shot and goes back upstairs, entered the master bedroom where he saw Donna Kay lay with her head in a pool of blood. It's not clear from the court records when the boys were shot and stabbed. But after the attack on her family, with 3 stolen guns, she and Eric proceed to the garage area, where Eric retrieved a can of gasoline and re-entered the home, threw the can of gas, and threw a match. Fire engulfed the home. After a Medina County court jury deliberated for 11 hours over 2 days, 18-year-old Teresa was found guilty, convicting her of 3 counts of aggravated murder by reason of aggravated robbery, 3 counts of murder, and 3 counts of aggravated robbery. She received a life sentence for the offense of aggravated murder, for the killing of her mother, and 2 15 years to life sentences for the 2 lesser included offenses of murder, for the killing of her brothers. The 6 murder convictions were merged into 3 for the purpose of sentencing. Teresa was sentenced to an additional 5 to 25 years for each of the 3 counts of aggravated robbery and 5 years for grand theft. Teresa won a victory on appeal. Her case was remanded back to court, and she was resentenced to 15 years to life in prison. Since Teresa was 17 at the time of her murder, she was able to get an early visit to the parole board but had no success. She will go back again in 2028. She's currently housed at the Northeast Pre-Release Center. Eric Davis was also found guilty as charged. He was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. He successfully went before the full parole board and was granted APA supervision. He was released in March of 2024. Rest in peace to Donna Kay, Fred Jr., and Kenneth Bickerstaff. Officers responded to 2 911 calls reporting an unconscious baby that fell off a bed.
She called me before she called y'all. An 18-month-old baby just fell off the bed and passed out. Okay. She knocked his head out or did something while she watching her grandbaby. Okay, got it.
Despite life-saving efforts of first responders and ER doctors, 5-year-old Anwan Jr. died at Toledo Hospital. Doctors told investigators Anwan's injuries were not consistent with a fall, and an autopsy later determined he died from multiple blunt force trauma injuries. Anwan was in the care of his grandmother, Yesenia Flores, who initially told emergency responders that Anwan wanted to fly like Spider-Man and had jumped from a mattress, injuring himself. She was later interviewed by homicide detectives and ultimately confessed to hitting Anwan late in the night of September 18, 2019. She said her grandson was lethargic, semi-unresponsive, and was unable to get up from the floor. And despite his obvious need of help, Yesenia didn't call for help until after 6 p.m. the next day, September 19th.
Just brightens the room up, man. A good kid.
This young mother did not want us to identify her, but told me that's how she will remember her 5-year-old son, Anwan Hare III. The family called him Man.
Oh my God, just his smile, everything about him. I'm never gonna forget my son. It's not a day it's gonna go by. I wake up, break down every day.
The boy's grandmother, Yesenia Flores, is charged with murder. Flores claimed her grandson jumped from a mattress and hurt himself. Doctors told investigators the injuries weren't consistent with falling. According to this court document, Flores eventually confessed that she hit the boy the day before and that he seemed lethargic and couldn't get up from the floor. Anwan was living with his grandmother while his mother says she served time for some minor offenses. She told me she called often from jail to check on her kids. She says her mother made up an excuse why she couldn't talk to her son.
I knew something was going on. A motherly instinct I felt when I was locked up. It's hard, I'll tell you that. Especially just being incarcerated and getting out with nothing is tough. I appreciate any donations that are given.
The grieving mother says she doesn't have all the details of why she says her mother beat her son, but she wants justice.
I couldn't forgive her because I only had 23 days left. Like if it was that stressful and she couldn't take it, all she had to do was call somebody. You know what I'm saying? Instead, she took it in a wrong matter to an innocent baby. I don't care if he's ADHD or not. A kid's not that bad to make you want to brutally beat him. You know what I'm saying? Like, now my daughter's traumatized probably by it, has to take therapy classes and everything. So, yeah, I would never forgive her.
The 47-year-old grandmother pleaded guilty in May of 2021 to murder and child endangerment. At her sentencing, her defense attorney said she had stopped taking multiple prescription medications for mental health because of their cost, and that she never intended to harm her grandson. Prosecutors told the judge mental health wasn't the sole issue, and Anwan's injuries couldn't have come from one isolated incident. And the judge agreed. Anwan's mother, Crystal, was in court, and she wanted justice for her baby indeed. She also expressed how she felt she was losing her mother to prison, telling her mother that she loved her, but also that she was not happy about her sentence, but she wasn't sad about it either. Yesenia apologized to her daughter and other family members before the judge sentenced her to 15 years to life in prison. She received 640 days jail time credit and is currently housed at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. She'll be eligible for parole in 2034. Her daughter, Crystal, is still feeling the pain from the loss of her son and took to her Facebook page, making this post. I be feeling so bad when my mom calls me from prison. My heart drops when I see Marysville and eyes water a little. Cause if you know me and my mom, we were best friends. She called me every day legit and would sit on the phone with me and talk about nothing and what we need to do today. So turning her calls down every time she called, no lie, be having a lump in my throat and makes me feel so bad. Cause Lord knows I would have answered, but you took my son, lady. I really can't talk to you or even sit on the phone like it never happened. And the way my life is now because of his loss, shaking my head. Damn, Senya, why you do this to me? A pain no parent wants to ever experience. I send many condolences and blessings to Crystal and her family, and may Anwan Hare III forever rest in peace. And that's a wrap on Women Serving Life in Ohio. Thank you for listening and tuning in. To all of my friends, I thank you for your continued support. If you're new here and have yet to subscribe, go ahead and smash the subscribe button. Definitely have those notifications on so that you don't miss anything that Anna B has coming. Until next time, my friends, y'all be good.